Hi guys, Tom here, and in this video I want to introduce you the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS. The Office of Strategic Services was a wartime intelligence agency of the United States during World War II and the predecessor to the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. The OSS was formed as an agency of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to coordinate espionage activities behind enemy lines for all branches of the United States Armed Forces. Prior to the formation of the OSS, the various departments like the Navy, the War Departments, conducted intelligence activities on an ad hoc basis with no overall direction, coordination, or control, and the FBI was responsible for domestic security and anti-espionage operations. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was concerned about American intelligence deficiencies. On the suggestion of William Stevenson, the senior British intelligence officer in the Western Hemisphere, Roosevelt requested that William G. Donovan draft a plan for an intelligence service based on the British Secret Intelligence Service MI6 and the Special Operations Executive SOE. After submitting his work titled Memorandum of Establishment of Service of Strategic Information, Colonel Donovan was appointed Coordinator of Information on July 11, 1941. Thereafter the organization was developed with British assistance. Donovan had responsibilities but no actual powers, and the existing US agencies were quite skeptical, if not hostile. Until some months before Pearl Harbor, the bulk of OSS intelligence came from the UK. Britain trained the first OSS agents in Canada until training stations were set up in the US with guidance from British instructors, who also provided information on how the SOE was arranged and managed. The British immediately made available their short-wave broadcasting capabilities to Europe, Africa and Far East, and provided equipment for agents until American production was established. The Office of Strategic Services was established by the Presidential Military Order issued by President Roosevelt on June 13, 1942, to collect and analyze strategic information required by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and to conduct special operations not assigned to other agencies. During the war, the OSS supplied policymakers with facts and estimates. OSS soldiers were primarily inducted from the United States Armed Forces. Nonetheless, other members included foreign nationals. Donovan sought independent thinkers, and in order to bring together those many intelligent, quick-witted individuals who could think out of the box, he cleverly chose them without distinction to culture or religion. In a matter of a few short months, he formed an organization which equaled and then rivaled Great Britain's Secret Intelligence Service and its Special Operations Executive. First, OSS operatives were trained at Camp X near Whitby, Ontario. The so-called Assassination and Elimination Training Program was operated by the British Special Operations Executive, assigning exceptional masters in the art of knife fighting, such as William E. Fairburn and Eric A. Sykes, to instruct trainees. From these incipient beginnings, the OSS began to take charge of its own destiny and opened camps in the United States and abroad. One of the main training centers was in Prince William Forest Park. This site operated from 1942 to 1945. Training was modeled after Great Britain's Special Operations Executive, which included parachute, sabotage, self-defense, weapons and leadership training to support guerrilla or partisan resistance. The main OSS training camps abroad were located initially in Great Britain, French Algeria and Egypt. Later, as the Allied advanced, a school was established in southern Italy. In the Far East, OSS training facilities were established in India, Ceylon, and then China. OSS provided especially useful in providing a worldwide overview of the German war effort, its strengths and weaknesses. In direct operations, it was successful in supporting Operation Torch in French North Africa in 1942, where it identified pro-Allied potential supporters and located landing sites. OSS operation in neutral countries, especially Stockholm, Sweden, provided in-depth information on German advanced technology. The Madrid station was set up agent networks in France that supported the Allied invasion in southern France in 1944. Most famous were the operations in Switzerland run by Alan Dulles that provided extensive information on German strength, air defenses, submarine production, and the V1 and V2 weapons. It revealed some of the secret German efforts, chemical and biological warfare. Switzerland station also supported resistance fighters in France and Italy and helped with the surrender of the German forces in Italy in 1945. For the duration of the World War II, the Office of Strategic Services was conducting multiple activities and missions, including collecting intelligence by spying, performing acts of sabotage, waging propaganda war, organizing and coordinating anti-Nazi resistance groups in Europe, and providing military training for anti-Japanese guerrilla movements in Asia, among other things. At the height of its influence during World War II, the OSS employed almost 24,000 people. From 1943 to 1945, the OSS played a major role in training the Kuomintang troops in China and Burma, and recruited Kachin and other indigenous irregular forces for sabotage, as well as guides for Allied forces in Burma fighting the Japanese army. Among other activities, the OSS helped arm and train and supply resistant movements in areas occupied by the Axis powers during World War II, including Mao Zedong's Red Army in China. One of the greatest accomplishments of the OSS during World War II was its penetration of Nazi Germany by OSS operatives. The OSS was responsible for training German and Austrian individuals for missions inside Germany. Some of these agents included exiled communists and socialist party members, labor activists, anti-Nazi prisoners of war, and German and Jewish refugees. The OSS also recruited and ran one of the most important spies, the German diplomat Fritz Kolbe. The OSS espionage and sabotage operations produced a steady demand for highly specialized equipment. General Donovan invited experts, organized workshops, and funded labs that later formed the core of the research and development branch. Boston chemist Stanley P. Lovell became its first head, and Donovan humorously called him his Professor Moriarty. Throughout the war years, the OSS research and development successfully adopted Allied weapons and espionage equipment and produced its own line of novel spy tools and gadgets, including silenced pistols, lightweight submachine guns, compasses hidden in uniform buttons, playing cards that concealed maps, a camera in the shape of a matchbox, and tasteless poison tablets. The OSS also developed innovative communication equipment such as wiretap gadgets, electronic beacons for locating agents, and the Joan Eleanor portable radio system that made it possible for operatives on the ground to establish secure contact with a plane that was preparing to land or drop cargo. The OSS research and development also printed fake German and Japanese issued identification cards, various passes, and ration cards. On September 20, 1945, President Truman signed Executive Order 9621 terminating the OSS. The State Department took over the research and analysis branch, the War Department took over the Secret Intelligence Branch. A few months later, in January 1946, President Truman created the Central Intelligence Group, CIG, which was the direct forerunner of the CIA. The National Security Act of 1947 established the first permanent peacetime intelligence agency in the United States, the Central Intelligence Agency, which then took up OSS functions. Today, the Joint Branch United States Special Operations Command, founded in 1987, uses the same spearhead design on its insignia as homage to its indirect lineage. If you are interested, check the description for more information.